Key stats for picking a winner on the PGA Tour, the Travelers Championship. Of course, everybody coming off the U.S. Open last week. Scottie Scheffler didn't play the way he wanted. The key stat we're looking at this week at TPC River Highlands, 3 of the last 4 winners were inside the top 6 of both strokes gained approach and strokes gained putting that week. The only outlier was Harris English in 2021. What did he do so well that won him the tournament? That's what we are here to discuss on Golfbet Key Stats. Chris Brees and Ben Everill were traveling this week, but still got to give the folks info on making all the right picks, Benny B.
Yeah, I'm coming off the US Open hangover, mate. It was a big week, obviously, in Pinehurst. I'm heading back to the West Coast. I know you're there on site, though, to give us all the insight as we go through the Travelers Championship. US Open was a grind, and I do think that'll be a factor. We'll get into that in a little while this week. But as you said, you need to be both good at on the greens and getting the ball to the greens, because you need to go low at the Travelers. We've had multiple years where many under par has been the winner. And with that in mind, if you're not putting it close to these greens, it's a short course. You've got to make birdies. You've got to make your run up the leaderboard. I mean, even a few years ago, we had 7 straight or 8 straight birdies to win. So, look, if you're not putting it close and not taking advantage of those opportunities you give yourself, you're getting left behind at TPC River Highlands.
Yeah, Keegan Bradley did that so well last year, and Xander the year before that. But we got to focus on Harris English and what he did a couple of years ago, because he was the outlier when you're talking about that combination of those two stats. Why was Harris English so impressive 3 years ago when he won here?
Well, we have a situation where like 45 to 50% of all shots over the last 4 or 5 years at this course, the approach shots have been between 125 and 175 yards. So you have to have that wedge game and the short iron game absolutely dialed in. And that's what he was able to do. If you're able to do that and make your mark, as I said, on your approach from those distances specifically, you're going to be getting a leg up on the opposition.
So now that we have the key stats out of the way, what we want to do here, Ben, is figure out who's been gaining the most strokes on the field at this event in the last 5 years, and a little bit of a mix of star power and some guys who could maybe be under the radar this week, Ben. I know Xander and Cantlay have everybody's eyes, but Brian Harman's been very good here in Connecticut.
I think this is where we start to think about what's been going on the last few weeks on tour, with signature event into the US Open that was brutal. And yes, you can see big names there at the top of the board in strokes gained stats, but are they going to have strokes gained energy?
Yeah.
Are they going to be ready to play after such a tough week in the heat at Pinehurst? Those who were really in the mix, i.e., Schauffele was up there most of the week. Cantlay, of course, playing as well late into the week. The energy those guys are going to have lost and drained is going to be significant. So we have to factor that in. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we even get a few WDs before this thing starts. That's how brutal it was. But you mentioned Harman. Yes, he was up there, but not really up there. So maybe he's got something left in the tank when it comes to TPC River Highlands. In fact, I know you have strokes gained stats sort of further down the list.
Right.
And there are 2 names there that really pop for me, and that's Victor Hovland and Sahith Theegala, because they both missed the cut at Pinehurst. Now, do they want to miss the cut? No, of course not. But that doesn't mean that they're playing terrible. It was a really, really tough course. It's a completely different setup. And the rest they've got from that weekend off might be a very considerable great factor going into this weekend's event.
And the thing you got to realize about this course in specific, it's the shortest these guys are going to play all year long. So whether you're looking at a guy who just kills it in total driving, I mean, Scottie Scheffler is near perfect in all of these categories. Xander's up there, Cantlay's up there. When you talk about total driving stats generally, we are going to have a different kind of golf course this week where all of that really becomes irrelevant, Ben. It's going to be all about that approach game, 125-yard shots like you had just mentioned about Harris English. And you look at down this list, Sam Burns is in the top 10 of strokes gained. He was quietly getting better and better throughout the year, and you saw it last week at the U.S. Open. He's another guy to look at as well. And I'm really curious about Sahith Theegala, because you could say that the U.S. Open was not his kind of course, but he had some terrible luck on Thursday and came back and battled to make the cut on Friday. I think he's a guy we should be looking out for this week. What do you think?
1,000,000%. He should have won this tournament a couple of years ago.
Right.
He gave it away late. He may end up being my top pick for this week. We'll obviously do a little bit more research in the next 24 hours, but I really like what I've seen from him at that course before. As I said, I want a guy that can go low and can make a lot of birdies and recover from any mistakes they may make. and who fits the standard of what we're looking for in those approach shots. And energy is a big thing. Look, I'm not saying that a guy who contended at the US Open can't win. But I'm
Hmm.
just saying there's a little bit of extra, energy in the guys that didn't necessarily feel that furnace. Like, you can't tell me that Patrick Cantlay and Rory and the likes of these guys aren't tired. They absolutely are. Scotty
Right.
Scheffler talked about it. Scheffler talked about how gassed he was and how, in hindsight, maybe he shouldn't have played the week before, which is hilarious to me because he won. He won the week before. So these are the things that you do have to take into consideration. While I think Scheffler is actually a great fit for this course and could do really well, I won't be touching him at short odds before the first round,
Right.
just to get a gauge on how he feels.
Well, we had a very long week last week. Well, we could not stop. No rest for the weary here. We're all traveling here at Golfbet. The key stats again: approach shots 125 to 175, a combo of strokes gained approach and putting, and then your strokes gained energy. We're going to try to get some energy the next 24 hours and be back with you Tuesday for the roundtable.